Hey everybody, welcome to the OMG Tarot podcast. In today's episode, I'm sharing a recent conversation I had with Dina Berrin, a numerologist, tarot card reader, and charm caster. Our conversation is mostly about the numbers in tarot, but as always, it veered off into astrology and other interesting topics, so I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to the OMG Tarot podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Dina Berrin, and we're talking all about numerology and tarot and how they fit together. So, hey.
Hello, Lindsay. So happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm excited to talk about the secret number system inside tarot.
Do you want to, start by telling us a bit about yourself, what you do, and your tarot experience?
Sure. So I have always been interested in all things divination. My grandmother introduced me to astrology at a very young age. And I remember, I grew up in New Jersey and, going to the boardwalk when I was a little girl and, seeing people reading tarot cards on the boardwalk or doing palm readings and, begging my mother to let me sit down with one of these women. And she was like, absolutely not, keep walking kind of thing. But when I graduated college and I came to New York City, through working crazy hours at the job that I was in, I found an intro to tarot class. And that began one of the biggest loves of my life. And this relationship that I have with tarot has just grown and deepened. And while I did start learning tarot, I realized that there was a lot of ways that you could get insight and information in the cards aside from just knowing the meanings. And that's when I started studying numerology, and I started working with symbology and color and a lot of other things in the card. And that kind of led to a lot of other areas. I started, weaving the astrology back into the cards. So what my grandmother introduced me to at a young age kind of came back again. And then I started speaking at conferences, and I connected to a guy that was doing palm readings, and I decided to take his class, and I do palmistry as well. So I feel as though my readings, and along the way I became a certified life coach, are like a weaving together of all the information I know. And I always pepper in a few questions because the life coach in me can't not. And that's where I come to with readings. And a year ago, I published my first book.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you so much. And the name of the book is The Way Within: Igniting Your Intuition Using Sacred Tools. And the three sacred tools that I spoke about are tarot, numerology, and charms. And charms meaning these are the symbols that we see in the world, and that we can kind of use by using these little trinkets. But anyway, this is all of these together. You can use them individually or you can use them together, are a path to you connecting more strongly with your intuition. And I feel as though that is one of the reasons why I started working with numbers so much. So to give you a very long story about how this all came to be, it all came out of my curiosity, to be completely honest.
Interesting. Oh, that's so cool. And just curious, what are your big three?
My big three is I am a Taurus sun, a Cancer rising, and a Gemini moon. Which is a little bit chatty.
Yeah. Hey, I love it.
So, and I do have a bunch of Aries placements in my chart. So while I do consider myself a full Taurus, I do have a lot of Aries tendencies as well.
So, similar. Well, not those two, but same thing. I'm a somewhat early Aquarius, so I have a lot of Capricorn in my chart. So yeah, I guess, the sun moves. The other guys are still kind of catching up.
Yeah. And I mean, and so do you consider, do you feel that cusp energy? Do you feel like you are a full Aquarius, or do you sometimes feel as though you have Capricorn tendencies?
I have Capricorn tendencies. I don't always like to admit it. As much as I'd like to just be like, yeah, I'm an Aquarius, peace and love and innovation. I know what I do all day. It's very Capricorn-y.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's you getting stuff done, right?
Yeah. That's the magic of this podcast. That's how this podcast gets itself out every week.
Yes. So let's thank the Capricorns. Let's thank the cusp. It's okay.
And Uranus is going to be hanging out with your moon.
Yes, it just moved from being in Taurus for 7 years to now being in Gemini, which is a total change in energy. I know that everybody's like, all the Taurus, like all of the, uh, fixed signs also are getting a little bit of a rest from the Uranus energy. But I'm like, yeah, it's moving into a sign that I also have energy in. So happy birthday to me.
I just literally, as soon as I said that, put two and two together. It's like, oh, it's going from one luminary to the next. Okay, so
Yes,
you're
exactly. Exactly. It's going from my sun to my moon. So there you go.
uh,
Talk about shadow sides. There you go.
yeah, there we go. So
It's very true. Yeah. So I'm super excited to talk about numbers. I mean, how do numbers show up for you in a reading? Because you are such an interesting way of reading and you're so in depth and specific. So I'm interested in learning about how you use numbers along with the meanings and all of the other parts of the tarot.
sure. So pretty much as I pull numbers in, it's all based on a intro course I did years ago about reading playing cards as divination. So we learned essentially like the short story of the ace through the 10 and how an ace is, it's brand new, it's fresh, it's coming right at you. Number two is, okay, we got two disparate things, they come together. So I always kind of keep that framework in the back of my mind, not to, you know, not to override my intuition as I look at the cards, but more of a kind of like, all right, this is what we're positioning this in. Literally a framework. So that's really the primary way I use numbers. And then I kind of look for when I'm looking at a spread, things like progressions, or are we going backwards? Like, is our first card a two and then we're ending on a seven or eight? Or are we pulling a couple of fives or a couple of nines? Like, basically, are we staying in the same range or are we going up? Are we going down? Kind of like that. And I do that more with minors than majors. Majors, perhaps I do kind of to a lesser extent. It's more of like, okay, where have these majors fallen in relation to each other? So it's like, all right, we got the devil and the star. What happens between them? The tower. So also we can kind of like read the negative space too. Um, the sense of like, all right, we got these two. What happened in between, and how are these two cards showing up to be, kind of the before and after, and what isn't getting talked about?
Yeah, and I love all of that, and I do think that it's very easy to. I mean, if people are starting out reading, I feel as though knowing a number system, because the tarot really has a very structured system to it. It's not a random system, and the numbers help give it that structure. So, do you think that? I mean, I feel like that your podcast has like a whole bunch of levels of readers in it, and well, first of all, it's like, why do you think the numbers show up this way in the tarot? Like, do you think that it's um, because I feel like there's the minor arcana, there's the major arcana, and I mean, how do you? I mean, you were saying that it's a system you used to use it for playing cards, but how do you use these in the tarot? And do you think people overlook numbers?
I actually do think people overlook numbers a lot. Um, yeah, no, just kind of bring it back to the whole like how I use them as a framework and maybe see, this is what I mean about the Capricorn coming out. No matter what, we
Yeah.
always get back to the structure. Like, no matter what, it's like, okay, but did you read the instructions before you tried to put that thing together? Like, literally, I feel like that's Capricorn energy is open the box and read the instructions first. Um,
Yeah. So, what is the biggest shift for someone when they start using numbers?
Um, Honestly, I think they can pull in a bit more of a sense of how the different cards they've pulled relate to each other. Like, are these right beside each other? Is it one after the next? I think honestly, you can even possibly pull in some timing there. Sometimes I'll read into it like, oh, is there a really big spread? We're looking at a much larger span of time. Is it, we got a three, a four, a five? I think it's going to be a bit more rapid fire, like quick, quick, quick. I think people tend to overlook the numbers because they maybe weren't taught about numbers initially. So they don't have that framework. And I think maybe it's a little sacrilege in the tarot community. Sometimes I think people kind of overlook systems and framework in the name of, well, I'm going intuitively. And it's like the two aren't opposites. The two work together. And I think I've said this before. I love the analogy of art school can't teach you how to be creative, but it can teach you things like composition and color theory that you're going to use to push your creativity further. That's how I view understanding the systems of the numbers, the astrology, all of that is it's not taking away from your intuition, it's giving it a scaffold so that way then you can kind of really work in it more freely and really like, your picture is going to look better if you understand how composition works. It doesn't make you any less creative. If anything, it gives you a better perspective and you can push it in different ways.
I love that. And that's so, so true. This makes me think like, so you were saying that when you did a class about the playing cards and what the numbers of the playing cards meant. So my question is, did you do the playing cards before you did the tarot? And how did that change how you read the tarot?
So no, I actually did tarot first, which even prior to doing this playing cards class, I had some understanding of the numbers because a lot like you, I took a beginner's tarot class. It was like a little community ed adult school, like 5-week class. It was awesome. And now I teach one and it's such a full circle moment. But yeah, when I took the playing cards class, it was kind of cool. I was part of a tarot meetup for a while. And our organizer knew this guy who read with playing cards and brought him in as a guest speaker. So he basically kind of really I just brought my understanding of the numbers to a new level because he was like, you don't even need the majors. Just let's read some playing cards. I was like, okay. And then it was pretty cool how he pulled the face cards in too. And this was right around 2016. So a lot of the readings he was doing were focused around the presidential election that year and how he didn't want to be the bearer of bad news, but he predicted Trump getting elected. And he was like, oh, I didn't want to have to go tell all my friends that. But this is also what I pulled out of my cards. And I was like, oh, well, we were already on the other side of it. I think it was like January at that point. And we were like, well, yeah, this is, but yeah, so I think taking that class just sort of put me deeper into the mindset of using numbers. Like they were always in the back of my mind. Now they're kind of at the forefront.
Yeah, and I love how, and that kind of also what you were mentioning is sometimes you just have to read the cards. It may not agree with your personal views on the world, but sometimes you have to put yourself aside when doing readings and just be like, this is what the cards have to say. Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you about something that's a little bit maybe maybe a little bit more advanced, but how do number meanings interact with reversed cards? So do reversals alter the number's message, or is it more about the energy of that stage being maybe blocked or challenged?
Hmm. That's such an interesting question because honestly, I've never thought about it. Um, yeah, honestly, I usually don't read reversals. I'm one of those readers that I've always just
Okay.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like initially I started reading reversals, but then it just felt like it wasn't really adding anything for me. I was like, anything that I would be getting from a reversal, I'm getting contextually from everything else we've pulled. So I'm just going to not have to look at this table in front of me where some of these are upside down and some aren't. I'm just going to put them all right side up.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I mean, I'm a believer that the number is the number. But like for example, I do read reversals. I mean, but once again, like if I turn over cards and like every card is reversed, I turn them all upright. But if I'm doing a reading and like one card is reversed, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why is that one card reversed? But I look at reversals as either a delay or maybe they're trying to bring your attention to something, or it could sometimes be where somebody is blocked. So, how can that number, like, for example, if you're at a 4 and the card is reversed, like to me, the 4, like the 3 is action, the 5 is action, but the 4 is usually a pause in between the action. So, if this card is reversed and it's a 4, and maybe you're feeling stuck, I might say, well, that's interesting because I feel as though it's not really stuckness. I feel as though you need to pause right now. I think that there is going to be more learning here for you. And maybe you shouldn't run along to what's next. You should stay here and be open to what the learning is, kind of thing. So, but that's interesting that, and I don't know that there is a reversal to numbers. Although, if we're going to go in that direction, my question to you is, do you think there's a shadow side to each number?
Hmm. That's interesting. I do think so because there's a shadow side to everything. And I guess by shadow, you just kind of mean both the negative and positive interpretation of the number, right? Or
Yeah, I mean, I feel that like just like how like so you mentioned the tower card before, like what's in between the devil and the star card. And I don't look at the tower as always. I mean, I know that can sometimes be like the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, and everything just kind of is going to to shit right now. But I often look at the tower as liberation. You have now been freed from something. So just like I feel like every card has an upside and a downside, I feel as though the numbers are the same. So and for example, like the number six, just kind of like bringing that up out of my like I feel like the six I look at as a journey. The journey is moving from maybe a difficult situation to something that's easier and smoother and better. But also, I feel like the six, if you don't take care of yourself in that, burnout is possible.
yeah,
So
definitely.
so that's why I feel as though like the upside and the downside of the six could be like I do see the six as a transition. I do see the six as movement, as action, as alignment with where you're going. But at the same time, if you do not, with all things, take care of yourself, burnout and then complete loss of that opportunity of you moving forward and being aligned. So you have to stay and it depends once again what the cards are around it and what maybe the theme of the reading is. But I do believe that there are shadow sides to each of the cards.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say
I mean, take the numbers. I'm sorry.
one example that really, I guess, now that you explain it, kind of comes to mind for me is the Eight of Swords. Yeah, on the Rider-Waite-Smith, it's the one where she's tied up, she's got all the swords around her, she's on, yeah. That card looks so negative, but the way I, contextually, depending on what else we pull out with it, I read it one of two ways. In any case, she's not looking at all the information around her. Sometimes that's terrible. Like, you need to open your eyes, pull that blindfold off, and look at what's around you. Other times, it's, no, actually, like, keep that tunnel vision. You kind of need to stop. Like, don't pay attention to all the superfluous in stuff around you because it's kind of useless. Like, stay focused. You picked your sword. Stay with that train of thought. So I'd say that's kind of a shadow and reverse of shadow, a sunlight. Yeah, I guess sun patch, right? What's the opposite of a shadow? Is a sun patch? Like
the opposite of a shadow. I always thought it was like, I guess, the upright version. But yes, it is sun. It's the positive. It's the opportunities within this number or within the card. And so anyway, it's funny. Like I know that some cards, like you just mentioned, the Eight of Swords, are quite unpopular when they get turned over. And like the Three of Swords, a lot of the sword cards, let's be honest, a lot of the sword cards are not the most popular when people turn them over and see them. And I feel as though one of the big topics that we talk about is people that are skeptical, people that are skeptical of the tarot and like, do you believe in the tarot and all that kind of stuff. So my question to you is, because we're talking about numerology, have you ever or how do you work with clients that are skeptical of numerology?
Honestly, I never even used the word numerology. So yeah. As far as skeptical of numerology, I don't know if I have worked with clients who are skeptical
or of numbers, or maybe like in this case of numbers. Like when you start talking about numbers, are they kind of like have you ever experienced a skepticism around numbers?
I actually haven't. So I'd be interested to hear scenarios where you have with clients, because honestly, I've never had someone specifically be skeptical of that. I've had people who are, skeptical of tarot, either sit with me or just move along, and that's fine. I've had people who are all the way in on tarot, but then skeptical of my specific message or even my specific way I do it. And it's like, okay, well, all right. But I've actually never had people latch onto the number and be skeptical about that. So I'd love to hear more, but can I just have a slight go back to our previous topic? Because it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So the Three of Swords, people hate it, which understandable. It's crappy. It's swords going through a heart. That sucks. That's one card I love to cite as basically a good reason to read with a Marseille deck or a playing card deck, because like, then the meanings are just the meanings. It's just a 3 and it's just the sword suit. It's not, we don't have this imagery of, oh, your heart's getting stabbed up during a rainstorm. So we can just isolate it to its thoughts, its ideas, and they're coming together. So just of all the cards that I love in a Marseille deck for that very reason, I'm going to redesign the 3 of Swords and make it something a little less overtly negative, because people tend to not see the sun patch side of it. They always are like, oh, the bad, the shadow.
Well, you know what? And so how I see and how I often explain, because when the 3 of Swords comes up, I feel like even if I'm doing a spread of cards, and even if that's like one of the last cards in the spread, I feel as though when that card comes up in a reading, I have to address it before I can talk about anything else, because I feel as though the client's eyes go to that card and they can't unsee it once they see it. So I always feel as though I'm like, let me address what the meaning of this card is. And one of the meanings, how I envision the 3 of Swords, is it's what I call it is the card of unnecessary truths. So it's the truth that maybe you didn't want to hear, but the truth that excuse me, not unnecessary. The truth, it's the card of necessary truths. So, for example, and I sometimes use this example just because people can relate to this. So, say you want to buy a house, and you look and look and look, and there's nothing that you like. And then finally, it's like you found the house that you love. And you're like, oh my God, I can see myself living here. This is my place. And you begin to get all excited about like all the things that could possibly happen with this house. And so then you move forward and you want to buy the house. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to get inspected. And the inspector goes in and he finds mold in the house that you love. Now, I don't know a lot about mold, but I believe it's very hard to get rid of. And sometimes, I don't know if you can get rid of it. So the question is, here you are, you're almost with the pen in hand, ready to sign on the dotted line that you're going to take this house. And then you find out this piece of news that you're like, wait a minute, I don't want this. I don't want to deal with this. So the question is, now that you know this truth, do you still want to move ahead? So it's not the truth you want to hear, but it's the truth you need to hear, because if you just want to like brush it aside and say, I don't care, I want this anyway, great. But at least you know it. So I feel as though, to me, the 3 of Swords, it is kind of like raining on your parade. You do feel like your heart has been like a little bit, like, this is not what I want to know, but it is what I need to know in order to make the best decision. So wouldn't that really be, a bummer if you found this out after you already signed on the dotted line? Like, you are still in a position where you can, and the swords are of the mind, they're how you think, that you could say, I can make a different choice right now. Not the choice that my heart wants, but the choice that my head knows is the best decision. I don't want to have this problem. I don't want to be saddled with this for the rest of the time that I'm in possession of this house. What if I could just find a place that has no mold? What if I could just find a place that doesn't have this cloud over me? So to me, I feel as though sometimes the message, like the image is, it's like, oh, I don't want to know that. I don't want that to be the case. And sometimes it is a little bit heartbreaking, but it's ultimately like, you'll move forward. It's a 3. You're early on. This is not going to be and 3s are about growth. 3s are about expansion. So you're like, okay, now that I know this, I can maybe find a new perspective and give myself a new way of thinking about this. Like, instead of being like, oh, I'm crushed about this and my heart is just ripped in 3, kind of thing. No, it's like, well, God, I'm so grateful for knowing this information. And then it's like, on to the 4. Now let's think about what we want to do.
It's such a Gemini moon take. But no, I love it. But I agree 1,000%. And that's why, yeah, it's so funny. I also whenever there's a card that looks scary, we have to address it first, even if it's at the end. I almost feel like you have to, yeah, address like the most negative common denominator in a spread, like to just kind of assure the client's feelings. Like, okay, yes, you see, we've got this 10 of cups, we've got this sun, we've got all these nice things. Oh, but over there's a 3 of swords. All right, I guess we gotta talk about that.
Yeah,
But
and
that's, yeah.
that mirrors life. Like life is not all rainbows and unicorns. And if you expect that to be the case, then I think you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But all of these challenges are how we grow. And I think that each of the numbers represents something different, just as though there's, the fool's journey, and each stage of the tarot, especially in the major arcanas, gives you a lesson to learn. I feel as though the numbers provide the same progression.
They do. Yeah, and that's how I try and teach it to my students. So we usually, when we do the minor arcana, we try to tell a story for each suit. So it'll be like, oh, a law student at the Ace of Pentacles. How does this person's journey from the first day of law school to graduation, how does it unfold card by card? And sometimes they get really into it and get really silly. And those are the best ones because it's like, good, be creative, have fun with this. Like,
yes, because ultimately that is what I do believe that having a structure and a way of approaching the readings, especially when you are learning, is super important. But having that be the only way that you read, I feel as though cuts out the creative and the just like the artistic way of seeing something. Which makes me think, it's like sometimes there are decks that, like, the images of the cards are completely different to what a traditional deck might put the image as. And also sometimes there are decks that tweak the traditional numbers or they have extra cards. So how do you approach a situation where the numbers are not maybe traditional?
so do you mean like particularly decks that switch justice and strength?
Well,
I know that's kind of common.
Yeah. I feel as though there are some decks that just kind of cut out the court, or there are some. So it's like, what if it is not a traditionally structured deck? I mean, I guess like there would always be an ace through a 10, but like what if they, it's like, is like, so yeah, so maybe in a situation where they do switch the strength and the justice card, like how do you read those cards, and do you follow that structure, or do you go with what you know?
So I always follow the deck structure. So I kind of feel like the artist created the deck a certain way. And it's kind of like, almost like popping open a board game. You have to read that board game's rules. So I always feel like whatever the rules, so to speak, of this deck are, I'm going to play according to them.
You're so Capricorn.
I really am. It's like, it's you're pulling all of it out of me. And it's like, oh, I really am. But also some decks, that's the only time I will read reversals, is certain decks, the little white book will say, this deck is meant to be read with reversals, or this deck is not. So even though I typically don't, if the instructions from the artist say, hey, read reversals here, I'll be like, okay. Yeah, I don't really have a whole ton of decks that do that, but are you familiar with the Carnival at the End of the World or the Tower of the Drowned Lands?
No, but tell me.
Check it. Okay, let me grab them. Where's the stick? Here we go. So both of these decks have extra cards, and they're known as the subordinate arcana. So I guess they're supposed to kind of fit between the major and minors.
How many extra cards are both decks? By the way, are these decks both made by the same creator, or are they two completely different creators?
Yes, they're made by the same creators, and the subordinate arcana is the same in both of them because I'll have to email you a link to their website, and for all the listeners, I'll drop it in the description of the episode if you want to check it out. But yeah, basically it's two artists who created this whole premise of a traveling band of performers, and these two decks just reflect the performances they put on. Like, it's really cool and in depth, and the art's beautiful. Like, I don't know if you can see it very well in this lighting.
I can see.
But yeah, this is the Chariot from the Tower of the Drowned Lands. Or what am I calling it? It's Tower of the Drowning World. It'd be helpful if I called this deck by its actual name. So hold on. Yeah, Tarot of the Drowning World. But yeah, here's like our Knight of Swords.
Oh, wow. It's like he almost looks like the Tin Man, but with
Yeah.
the Knight of Swords. So interesting. So when you read this deck, so let me ask you, how often do you read this deck, and do you read it for only yourself or do you read it for clients as well?
I almost exclusively use this deck for myself. Mostly because it's big and unwieldy, and when the subordinate arcana comes out, sometimes I'm still a little like, all right, what am I seeing here? And this is one where there is a framework for those guys, but it's all the way in the book and out at a client's event. I don't have the book on me. So it's like, all right, well, let's see how do we think this fits in? It's a little more, which hey, lean on your intuition, do that. I don't want to undermine that, but yeah, sometimes I'm so used to playing with a 78 card deck that having this like 81 card deck kind of even throws me through a loop. And it's like, well, how does that? But
Even just like 3 or 4 extra cards, it gets complicated, and, it's funny, I read a deck called This Might Hurt.
oh, I've heard of that deck. I've never worked with it in person, but I've seen it.
Oh my god, it's like one of my favorite decks. I love it. I use it. It's my, like, everyday deck. I use it all the time, and, they have a 1 card in between the major and the minor, and, it's kind of like the upside of it is more positive, and the downside of it, it's like it's the same image, but one of them is more, like this is working out for me, and the other one is I'm still challenged by this kind of thing. And when that comes up, I'm like, oh, like I remember the first time it came up for me, I was like, oh, wait a minute, should I pull? Because I sometimes pull a card. I mean, every day I pull a card every day, and when I pull that card, I'm always like. Well, should I pull another card now? Should I? Because I feel like, do I need a traditional card on top of this kind of thing? And then I'm like, nope, this is my card. I'm going to work with it. But I do feel as though um, when you are reading for clients, it is best to stick to the basics. I use my universal weight most of the time when I do events just because I feel as though if people have seen cards before, very often they've seen traditional decks and I can explain literally every single color, image, function and astrological association with the card. So I feel like this is my like the especially the universal weight. It's like my second language. I speak 2 languages. One of them is universal weight, one of them is English. So it's easier. So but that deck is so fascinating. And I'm betting that you get very unique messages from that.
I do, and I love it so much, and I love the imagery. It's just it's kind of difficult to bring out for people. And I've noticed too, when I give people a choice of decks to work with, they always tend to gravitate toward the more traditional looking ones. Like I have a pasta deck that I love so much, but it's all pasta, and people don't want to get readings with pasta.
Well, I feel as though people gravitate towards what's safe, and it's funny because I feel like numbers are safe. That's why I work with my charms, and my charms are images of things in the world. So you could pull a tree, you could pull a handcuff somebody pulls sometimes. You could pull I have a little genie, lamp kinda thing. You could pull a tennis racket. Like, there's all these things in the tarot deck, but excuse me, in my charm kit, but they're all things you've seen before in the world, and numbers are like that as well. I know what the number 4 is. I know what the number 5 is, but I don't know what a Hierophant is. I don't know what a King of Swords does. Like, I feel as though when you're working with clients, I feel as though they gravitate towards the thing that feels safer and more familiar to them. So I feel that it would be very possible that this tarot of the drowning world might be very confusing for someone to look at. And some of those cards look a little bit dark, which is also not something that people feel all warm and fuzzy about.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
pretty dark deck. Yeah, literally everyone on there is drowning. Like they're drowning beautifully, but they are drowning.
Hence the title,
Yeah.
Tarot of the Drowning World. So this is very interesting, like, because you just showed me the Knight of Swords in the card. And I'm interested to know, like, do you see the court cards as having numbers? And if so, I mean, I know that they all have their own structure about them, but do you read them as numbers? And just kind of, if so, I'd love to hear how you elaborate on that.
Honestly, I don't. I never even really thought to, but I guess that kind of I guess the logic would be a page would be 1, a night would be 2, or is there a widely accepted numerical structure for them? I just see them as people. So when they come up in a reading, it's like, okay, this is the Querent, or this is someone else who's involved in the situation the Querent's reading about. So I see them more like they're the archetypes of a family. So dad and mom are the queen and king. The child is the page, and the knight is the teenager. And
Yeah.
then whatever suit they are is what they're doing. So, while our Page of Swords is, studious and getting good grades, our Page of Wands is out, like, shooting a paintball gun or something.
I love that. Yes. Well, it's funny. I don't use the numbers, but I have had it explained to me that, the page would be 11,
Oh,
the knight would be 12, the queen would be 13, and the king would be 14. And, but then what I do, it's like, I do look at, I do read master numbers. So I guess like the 11 would be more significant to me. But what I would do with the 12, 13, and 14 is I would just add those numbers together and then maybe connect it. So maybe the night, which becomes a 3, maybe that is somehow connected to the 3. I would kind of like look for connections there. But I look at the court as levels of mastery, like levels of
interesting.
development, like you said. And also I do sometimes look at them as a family. But like I look at them also that could be just about like where you are in the journey. So yes, like the page is learning, the knight is taking action, the queen is about emotionally understanding something, and the king is about leadership and maybe embodying it. So, but I don't necessarily use those numbers when I do look at the chord, but I'm always interested to just hear how other people may read it. And it's just interesting to me.
Is that the same correlation that, in certain card games, can't the face cards be like an 11 and a 12? I'm not a card game expert, but I know, like, when you're playing 21, I think, right?
Yeah,
Would
well,
it
I feel like they all don't they count. I think they count as 10?
do they? I
I
probably
don't know, like, I know the ace could be 1.
okay.
You know what? I am also not a card game aficionado, and I don't want to, I don't wanna completely show my lack of knowledge about, card games,
Fair,
but,
yeah.
yes, I do, like, I know that, for example, like, if you get, like to get 21, and I do think the ace could be 11 because if, like, you get a queen and an ace, that's 21.
That's right, okay, yeah, or, I think in that game, yeah, the ace can be either a 1 or an 11, right, depending on how you need it?
Right, exactly, exactly, but I think that, the other, um, and the other court are 10, like, they're always 10, like, a jack is 10, a qui like, and another they only go jack, queen, king in a regular traditional card deck, but, I think that they're all 10, but once again, this is showing my lack of knowledge in in don't play poker with me, or else actually you should play poker with me because I probably, will not know how to win.
Yeah, no worries,
So
it's yeah, same, I also lack a ton of card game knowledge, so yeah, whoever plays us in poker will beat us handily.
that's funny. So, how do you use numbers to tell a story across a whole spread?
Um, I basically kinda look at them as plot points, so story bits, and even if, let's say, like, a high number, like an 8 or a 9 comes first,
Yeah, that was a good
um
question.
yeah, so I would kinda read them as, "Alright, where might we" it's not like this linear upward path, it's like, my up here, down there, like, kinda like a spiky path. So I might read it as, "Okay, we started with this 8. We're leaned all the way into what we're doing, where let's just call it the 8 of Wands. You're leaned all the way into what you're doing, you're really just kind of feeling all of that fiery energy, you're running fast, you're doing your thing, but now you got the 3 of Cups." So that might kinda feel like a little bit of a step down or a step backwards, but you're still growing and expanding in a certain way, almost kinda like you were up here at the 8, maybe you even got expanded a bit from that 3, kinda went up a little further from that 3. Um, I hope that made sense. I realized that was a little,
No, that's interesting
gibberishy.
because I feel like sometimes it's like when you are giving because I do when I do a reading, I do kind of look at this as a story, and sometimes you need to take 1 step forward, and then you take 2 steps back, and then maybe, after you because maybe you realize after you take a step forward, you're like, "Wait a minute. I need to learn something before I can move forward. So you have to take a step back and be like maybe a student again, and then you can maybe take 3 steps forward, kind of like from there kind of thing. But so I feel as though life is not a linear path. And I feel like that's how the cards show up as well. And sometimes, you'll get a very low numbered card towards the end of the reading, whereas maybe you'll get some of the higher numbered cards at the beginning, which just maybe shows where you are. And depending on the suit, are you there mentally? Are you there emotionally? Like where are you there? And then kind of like how we can use the numbers to maybe bring you back to a place where you feel grounded so you can create a path forward.
I can give you kind of an interesting, somewhat recent example if you want.
I would love it. Tell me.
Yeah, so someone basically was reading about a career reading and got the 10 of Pentacles first, and then the rest, I don't remember what they were, but they were all low numbers. So I actually interpreted that as you've gone as far as you're going to go in this company. Like that's, because that 10 of Pentacles, it looks super nice. You've got the guys, the dogs, the grapes, all of that stuff. But in this case, it seemed more like a terminal point. Like you've gotten everything you're going to possibly get out of this particular scenario. So, and I think the question was, should I stay or should I start looking elsewhere? And it was like, you've gotten promoted as far as you're going to get here. Like it's, and if that's fine for you, because maybe you are at a stage where you don't want to necessarily keep growing. You want to just kind of do what's familiar, collect the paycheck, keep the benefits. That's a-okay. But there were no promotions happening at this company. Like this person had kind of just reached that terminal point. So if they wanted to keep growing, they were going to have to go elsewhere.
I love that. I love that. And I think of the 10 of Pentacles as your legacy. Like you are beginning to think about like what is the impact that you are going to leave on the world? And maybe they're thinking like, is this it? And if that's the case, like you said that you saw this was the last stop at this company, is this okay for you? Or do you want to make a larger impact? And if so, this is the last stop here.
Yeah. So that was one spot where it's like, oh, we start high, we went a bit lower, but yeah. It could even be the plateau that sets you up for now the next cycle. Almost like pulling in ideas of like the world and the fool. Kind of like when the world shows up early, it's like, hey, you just finished out the old cycle, so everything that follows is what's coming after the world.
Yeah, and I feel but I really love how that shows completion. And the major arcana is so it's funny, you were saying that you use the minor arcana numbers almost more than you use the major arcana numbers.
I,
Um, and so is there like so you would see the world as completion. So how do you read the major arcana as opposed to how you read the minors?
so I read the major more as like big picture themes, versus the minor is a little more granular day to day. So when I see both come up, I almost kind of nest the minor arcana under the major. Like, hey, big picture, you're in the world season. You're going through that big transition. It's not this world doesn't symbolize one particular event. It's kind of the overall energy. But the particular event might be this 10 of Pentacles or this Ace of Swords. Like, kind of big picture, what's the theme? Little picture, what's the narrative? Um,
Oh, I love that. That's very clever.
it's all my
See,
English
very
major stuff coming out.
yeah, but it's also how you think about the world, and it really, I it's funny how you resist your Capricorn tendencies, but everything that you're telling me like falls back on that.
It really does.
So funny. It's really funny, amazing. So, is there anything that we haven't talked about? I'm trying to think. What other questions? What if anything else that we want to share about numbers?
So I had a couple questions for you, but also just for the LOLs. Do you want to know what placements I have in Capricorn?
Yes, tell me.
This is like such a stellium. It's Venus, it's Mercury, it's Mars, it's Saturn, it's Uranus, it's Neptune. Literally six
Gosh.
planets.
Well,
So I have like the most boring chart because like when it's time to like find the house ruler for literally anything that's happening, it's like, oh, the answer is always the third house because they're all over there.
and you're very I mean, this shows to me so Capricorn and Venus is like that's how, you're probably in relationship, you're very level-headed, you're very, thoughtful about it, but like how you communicate, how you operate in the world. I mean, every single like these are all really important placements. I mean, and your sun is almost there. Your sun is
Yeah,
there.
it's almost there. It's right next door in house 4.
So you're Aquarius sun, and so where's your moon?
Aries.
Oh, so you have an Aries moon. Look at you. You very cardinal. A lot of cardinal energy.
Yeah, no, pretty much exclusively. I have zero. No, there's yeah, I have zero mutable energy in my entire chart. So Jupiter is in Cancer, and then I'm a Scorpio rising, and Pluto's over there. So
Wow.
literally, yeah, everything is fixed or cardinal. I have no mutable stuff in my chart.
So you're like it's like very like you're all guns a blazing. You're all movement ahead. And I mean, it seems like you have maybe like a couple of planets in fixed, but mostly you have in cardinal.
Yep.
And your life reflects that. We are all our charts, and we are all like I feel as though there are no mistakes. It's very interesting. I feel like you are the personification of your chart. You're telling me all of these in Capricorn. That's a huge wow. So I'm sorry. So back to you.
Yeah, no worries. It's interesting because it's like, yeah, as much as I try to resist and be like, no, I'm not basically Squidward. It's like, you're basically Squidward.
That's hysterical.
But I want to ask, what's a master number? I know you mentioned it a couple times, and I'm fairly certain it's where the two digits are the same, like 22, 33, 44. But can you expand a little more on them?
Yes. So the traditional foundational numbers of numerology are the single digits, the numbers 1 through 9. But the master numbers are the double one, 11, the double two, 22, and the double three, 33. And when these numbers show up, they are like kind of like the most expansive and fulfilled you know, uh, composition of this number. So a number 11, I look at as a visionary. And so it is someone that like number one, like the number one is about beginnings, it's about starting things. It's about kicking things off. And so the number ones are all about the spark. So the 11 is the sparkiest spark you can imagine. So it is all about getting things going. It's all about, just the initiator. And I really see it's I am, it's pure energy and it's unfiltered. So the 11 is like something new wants to come in, and this is an invitation to say yes. This is about initiation. This is about claiming your space. Even if you have no idea where it's going, like the 11 is about following your your spark, about following that initiating energy. And once again, I call the 11 the visionary. The number 22 I see as the master teacher. So, the twos are the fork in the road. You're not alone anymore in the number twos. It's about duality, it's about reflection, it's about the need for balance. And twos are always asking what you're choosing. So I feel when the 22 comes up, it's a it's doubling down on this like and the number when the number 22 comes up, and this is sometimes when we talk about life path, like life path 11s are very visionary, they're very sparky, they're very much making things happen. The number 22s are there to learn the lesson and then teach it. And so I see a number 22 as somebody who is very grounded, somebody who is very committed to doing the work, and also very they show up. They are like very solid and very present in facilitating growth and learning in the world. And a 33, so the number three is new life energies, about curiosity, about where things get legs and where things start moving. So a number 33, I look at as the master builder. And this is where you are really building like structures in the world, like I would have to go back and look, but I feel like somebody like, for example, like a Steve Jobs could be like a life path 33, a Dalai Lama, a Michael Jackson, like somebody that really built something and then they stand for that. So somebody that's really looking to take their vision and expand it and to reach out and to really make something blossom, like how Michael Jackson, he became the king of pop, and how like he changed music, like he built something, he built a structure. His musical catalog, his library was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. And I feel as though he kind of set the bar really high for something like that, to like people had to like all of a sudden level up where that concerned. So he built something that was like really impactful in the world. So the master numbers are doing all the things that the single digit, that the foundational numbers are doing, but they're doing them on like a much higher and much more exponential level. Does that make sense?
It does. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So when I see, these numbers, and I know once again, like the number 33 doesn't show up in the tarot, but the number 11 does, and the number 22 does. And I feel as though that, to me, it gets my attention. Like the Fool. I look at the Fool as the number 22 card. And to me, the Fool is here to teach. You're here to learn. So you're here to learn it, the Fool's journey. You're here to learn it. And then you're here to teach what you've learned, to level everybody else up so they can be better.
I love it. I think I'm gonna see the Fool a little bit differently now. Like I've always seen him as the student, but in a lot of ways, I suppose he is kind of the teacher too.
Well, he's both. He's the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And then once I always feel like once you complete one cycle of the major arcana, you go back to the Fool. But I feel as though, like, those parking garages where you can go around in a circle, and then after you go around, you're like on the next level. So
Yep.
you go around, you're like, boom, you're on the next level. Well, I feel as though that happens like when you go through one cycle of the major arcana, you've been through a round of learning, and then you are beginning again as a student, but on a higher level. You know more. And like so every time you go through a journey, you are and so I feel like, at different points of our lives, and we have tarot cards that are assigned to us, like we have personal year cards. So every year we're at a different point in our journey. And sometimes when we go back to the beginning, I mean, not that, because our numbers can add up to 22, like we can have the Fool card as a card for the year. And there is a lot of learning in learning how to be the student, even if you are at a later point in your life. Sometimes it's about showing up with curiosity. It's showing up without preconceived notions and, rigid ideas that you're not willing to be flexible about. So at any stage of our life, we can be the Fool, and actually we benefit from being the Fool.
Yeah.
The Fool is Uranus, the Fool is unexpected. And sometimes the most unexpected experiences that we have lead to our greatest learning. So and that's why it's funny, like I've been studying tarot for most of my life, and I still consider myself a student. I am the first one to sign up for a class. Like I want to learn from my students. I want to learn from my clients. Like I feel, and I always say like my greatest teachers are my kids. They are teaching me every day how to be better, how to be more open-minded, how to approach a situation differently. And I feel as though bringing that Fool energy with you is the biggest gift you can give yourself.
I love that. Yeah. And that's how you keep doing neuroplasticity through your life. I know that's kind of stepping outside the tarot realm, but that's super important. I know I've been reading a bit about that lately, and just kind of how you have to continually learn things and challenge yourself, and you can't let yourself get into this mindset of I know everything I need to know. Cuz no you don't.
You don't, and you can't get comfortable. I feel like one thing that I've also leaned into, this is not a new thing for me, but I feel like I have leaned into in my life being uncomfortable. Because being comfortable doesn't teach me anything. Being comfortable doesn't change anything. And I'm constantly looking to change and to expand and be better, and then to take that knowledge and to share it. So, yeah, so and that's why I do that's why I do the crossword puzzle, and I'm humbled by it every day.
And leaning into discomfort, that's especially difficult for a Taurus. You guys love comfort, so I commend you for, seeing that and having the self-awareness to push yourself out of, and also Cancer rising, you said you are, right?
I have Cancer rising, but I do feel very connected to my Gemini moon. My Gemini moon is so curious, and sometimes my Gemini moon, like, runs away and does its own thing. And I have to I'm like, okay, let's bring it back in a little bit. Let's, I'm a big, I really like to say yes to things. I want to have new experiences. And, sometimes I wish that I thought things through a little bit more before I say yes to things. But I feel like when there's an opportunity for me to learn, I, I always want to say yes because I feel as though I love that process of learning. I love being in that student mindset and like I never cease to be amazed with the things that add on to the knowledge that I already have and make what I do and how I do it even better. So that's the goal. Just I feel like I always want to be challenging myself to find a new way, which is why I'm like, you know what? The 3 of swords doesn't have to be what you think it is. It can be something else. And every card is open to your own interpretation. So just because the number says something or just because the little white book or whatever book you're reading says something, if you identify with a card being something else, then that it's funny when I first I'll just tell you a quick story. When I first started learning the cards, I worked with a teacher who told me that the 3 of cups was California. She said, "I don't know how, I don't know why." She says, "But every time this card comes up, California is relevant." She said, "That's all I have for you." She says, "But when you do a reading and if this card comes up," she said, "I invite you to throw that in there. Just feel like, give your reading of what the card means and then be like, oh, and by the way, does California have anything to do with, are you from California or is something happening in California or are you traveling to California?" And it's funny again and again, people are like, "How did you know that?" And I think I'm like, that was one of the first things that I learned and my teacher couldn't explain it, but it works. So anyway, be open to meanings that just go with it and see how it works, and do that with numbers as well, because I feel like there's a lot of fun ways for you to continue working and learning the cards in that way.
I agree. Yeah. So awesome. Well, it was so awesome chatting with you today. If people want to find you, where can they do that?
So, my website is dinaberrin.com. It's my name, and I'm also on Instagram as that as well. And if I do have a YouTube channel, which is also my name with some numbers next to it, but if you just put my name in, and I have videos for almost every tarot card on my YouTube channel. So if you want to know what a card is saying to you or what some of the symbolism or anything means, check me out there. But reach out to me. I'd love to. I'm always interested in hearing from listeners and from people that are curious about the tarot. This is my favorite topic, and I will never tire of talking about it.
Your passion comes through in how you talk about it. So this has been like such an awesome conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Lizzie, for having me. You are amazing in all of your Capricorn glory. I really loved speaking with you. And I thank you so much for inviting me to come and have this chat today.
If you're interested in working with Dina Berrin, check out her website, DinaBerrin.com. She's awesome, so definitely check her out, get a reading with her, give her a follow. She has a really good YouTube channel, so check out her stuff over there. And as always, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you want to give me a follow, you can hit up my website, omgtarot.com, or over on Instagram, my handle is its_omg_tarot. Alrighty, talk soon. Bye-bye.